All right, welcome in to the fifth chapter here on this Thursday in the middle of July. I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by Brian Jelinek. Brian Chapman off out in California, so Jelinek is in. He gets the call, and we're ready to get things underway.
Yeah,
Jelinek, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, Chapman's on vacation in California. Do we know anything about what he's doing or no?
It's kind of top secret. I've been sworn to secrecy, so I'm not going to say anything. Maybe he'll want to reveal something when he comes back. But, always good to go out to Cali. Not that I've been out there that many times, but the couple times that I have, I really liked it. You do miss the intro and the outro music, and you do miss the great page that gives you the book of everything that we're talking about. But I can just give that to you right now. We're going to get to the NBA, the games last night. We're going to be looking at the Tigers in the second half, coming out of the All-Star break, the Olympics, which is 8 days away, if you didn't know, and the British Open, which went off today, the first round, and pretty exciting over there on the British Isles, just off the English Channel.
The Open.
I'm all right with that. If you want to,
gotta be calling it the Open. Have to.
You know what? I don't mind snobs. You know what? I've always found like there's some people like they can annoy you. But I like golf snobs, and I think you're a little bit, if you're going to call it the Open, you are a little bit of a golf snob, which is all right.
Yeah, you got to have it a little bit. I mean, as a golfer, as an 11 handicap, I got to be a little arrogant. Just make sure to call it the Open. Got to be a little snobby.
Yeah, like hockey snobs are the ones like, I never played as the one sport like it. I mean, I played like street hockey, like never had skates on in an ice rink and went at, and then so hockey people like automatically just say, you don't know anything about hockey. It's like, all right, yeah. Wait, I don't know. I just watched the game. That's all.
You're telling me you were born and raised in Southeast Michigan and never once played hockey, never once played ice hockey, ever?
Ice hockey? No, I played a lot. We played in the street, and we played, in gym growing up. Floor hockey.
Floor hockey was big.
I liked a lot of floor hockey. I mean, that was sweet all the way up to high school. I can remember being playing floor hockey in gym in high school, but never got out there and laced them up. And you know what? I don't like, I roller skated, and I'm trying to think about I went ice skating. I've only been ice skating like two or three times. That's it.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
Just every guy who's been born and raised in Southeast Michigan, I feel like plays hockey at some point in their life. I played beginner hockey, a little peewee. Terrible, but I played.
Yeah, you know what? I've always had friends that have been totally just like hockey's their number one sport. They played it all the way and everything, collecting hockey cards, loving hockey, love watching it, but no. And, I liked, the floor hockey and street hockey just didn't happen for me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, and then it shows you about gambling. There was a stretch where we played probably for 20 years. I didn't do it this last year or two. A fantasy hockey league where we'd have a cup and everything. And, sometimes we'd throw as much as $50 in there a person. I won that thing enough times where, you would think that, man, this guy really does know his hockey, but I was just good at picking fantasy hockey players for the postseason. So there you go. Let's
do it, man. Let's get into it.
All right. That takes us to not the NHL. That's over. The Lightning won it. We're going to the NBA. It's a best of three now after the Milwaukee Bucks got the victory last night there in Wisconsin. What I want to know from you, Jelinek, is what you thought of Game 4 and who do you like now in the series?
God, I have no idea who I like now, and I just want to apologize to the Phoenix Suns organization. Every time I bet on you guys lose. So I am sorry. I am retiring from betting basketball. We can talk about that more later, but the Suns I think the Suns did everything they possibly could to lose that game. I mean, Booker had 15 fouls in the game. I mean, just nothing. I mean, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, none of their starters scored more than 12, 13 points besides Booker, who scored 30 plus. Just, they didn't look good. They looked good for part of the first half, a little bit in the third quarter, and just what happened?
They didn't look good, but they were in position to win that game all the way through. I mean, look, there was under 2 minutes to go and it was a tie score. So it comes down to just making a couple plays, and the plays that we'll remember were Middleton knocking down a couple jumpers, and then when Booker threw up that lob to Ayton and Giannis went up there and blocked it. I mean, that was the biggest play, probably the most memorable play Not probably. It's the most memorable play of the series. If the Bucks go back and win it, you'll be talking about that one, getting one of those NFTs or one of those videos or anything else. That's the poster. That's the memorable thing right there. The Suns turned the ball over too much, and Chris Paul didn't play great. He played great in game one, but he's turning it over too much last night. And then the thing with Booker, the one time, the one foul that they didn't call was ridiculous. I mean, if the Bucks didn't win that game, we'd be sitting here talking about the refs being on the take and, the NBA, what are we going to do? You got to be able to, it was terrible. The ref completely choked. I've been in situations where you're a ref. Did the ref know enough that, Giannis was following the play and it wasn't such a big deal because he, followed it up and was able to get the bucket? Did the ref wait that split second and know, and so he was able to keep Booker? I don't think so. I don't think he's that good. Yeah. I just think he didn't want to foul Book out. He wanted the players to decide what you got to call it when it's that egregious, and that was ridiculous that didn't happen. But all of that, the Suns not turning it over, or Suns turning it over, and Booker getting into foul trouble. The one earlier where he grabbed the Greek Freak.
I know.
And they were talking about it. Maybe it would have been a clear path. And then they went back and Van Gundy's like, okay, I changed my mind. If, they looked at the video and everything. If you're Booker and you got it going like that, you can't be taking any cheap fouls. And that was a cheap one. He didn't have to take that one. Let him go and get the layup. You need those fouls and everything else. So, but they were still in position to win that game, coming down, making a few plays there. So it was the most interesting game of the finals here, which most of the games have been blowouts here. So now we got a best of three. And if the next three games are like last night's game, where we're going to have a tie game and the final 2 minutes of the game, I will say that this will end up being a very good to great series.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And regarding that block by Giannis, if they go on to win the series, is that the best play in Milwaukee Bucks history? It has to be, right?
Yeah,
that block was LeBron-esque from a few years ago. I mean, it was an unbelievable block, and like you said, just the game was amazing. The final 2 minutes, and the Suns just did everything they possibly could to lose that game. But also on top of that, Chris Middleton scoring 40 points. Where did that come from?
Well, Middleton, earlier in the playoffs, people were talking about, hey, it's Middleton's team, and Giannis is like the second guy there, and then Giannis. Stepped up in the, third quarter of game two, and then, has been pretty awesome here in these home games. So that's flipped. I mean, Middleton's pretty good. I mean, Middleton's an all-star. Is he a superstar? No. I mean, if he goes, this is what it's come down to, man. If I thought Booker would bounce back, I thought Middleton would bounce back. Whatever happens in these three games, I mean, Middleton goes out and busts 40 points for 3 straight games. People will be talking about him being a potential superstar and this being his team. That's winning rings, coming up at the biggest possible times, and a game 5, game 6, and game 7. I mean, this is what it's all about. I mean, he's put himself in that position. It's not a huge surprise, that way.
Well, that's what the Suns needed too from Chris Paul. After Booker went out with foul trouble with 3 or 4 fouls, they needed Chris Paul to step up, and he didn't step up. He had 10 points. Is that it? 10, 11 points?
Yeah, he turned the ball over too much. At one point when Booker went down, he scored a little bit, but he's got to be better. I mean, you got to have your best players have to be your best players. I mean, there's no secret, especially in the big games. And
I mean, DeAndre Ayton didn't do a whole lot either. He had 17 boards, and that was really about it. I mean, he had 1 or 2 nice lobs.
Here's the thing. I mean, the age of Chris Paul, this being his first finals, and after game 1 and the way he closed out last round, I heard like, hey, it's Chris Paul. Would you move him ahead of Isaiah Thomas? Is an all-time great. I mean, those are the things that we do. We talk about things like that. Chris Paul comes out, plays great in these next 2 games, and they win it. All that's forgotten. And so. Yeah,
but if they don't, that's exactly what people are going to be talking about. How Chris Paul
you're right.
Do it.
That he faded. Maybe it was an injury. Maybe it was the age. Maybe he ran out of gas. All those things, and all those things are fair. GBM on the feedback here, and that is from Facebook. Because I can see the little icon there. You're on Facebook. You're on YouTube. You're on Twitch. If you want to say something to us, whether it's basketball, whatever else, you comment. We read it here on the air. In real time, and then you listen back to the podcast, which is a great way to go if you're going after the fact. And Gustavo is exactly right. He says the podcast is down right now, filthy. And you know what? he
No,
is
it's
right.
Fithy. It's Fithy, not filthy.
Oh, Fithy.
Fithy.
Nobody's ever called me Fithy. I've had some filthy and just fifth, but never Fithy. But I like it. The podcast is down, and that's on me. Chapman has taken care of the podcast through the first 100 and some odd shows, and then I went in. I just don't think I have the right cord. I've got I think I have everything, but when I tried to connect it, it just wasn't working. So I have to look through and get the right cord or whatever it is. It's a technical issue. Hell, I went to send Jelinek the link to the show, and I sent it back to myself today. So from a technical aspect, a few things that I can clean up there. But I'm going to try it again tonight. But know this, GBM, if you're not getting the podcast, you'll have it back in full effect coming up next week, and then I'll find out why I couldn't get just how Chapman is doing it, or I'll find the right connection, or I'll get Jelinek actually to get that connection, and he'll be able to do it. So I can put it on him as well. All right, what else? So we got more feedback here. Here's Paul talking some college hockey, and he wants to talk fantasy football draft. I'll tell you this, Paul. You know what? July is the month for me when I dive into fantasy football. So I have been full on looking at average draft positions, looking at rosters. Just really what I'm doing here in July is forming an opinion on every single player in the NFL as it applies towards fantasy football. So I'm all in, man. I love redrafts. I love auctions. I'm thinking about a guillotine. I like survivor pools. I'm all about it. So, Paul, you're in, and I'm in. I'm going to say that both of the Bryans are going to be in. So there's 4 of us right now. So yeah, we're gonna definitely do it. What I would love to have is 16 people, an auction draft, but I want to be able to do it online. And I don't know if we can do an auction draft online. That's the one thing that I'm not sure of. Maybe there's
in person, right?
Well, the one auction draft that I did was in person, but I'm also thinking that as big as fantasy football is right now, there might be
there's got to be
a way to do it where you can just sit there and bid on the players, where you can do. I mean, it's really just bidding on players. If you had some sort of button, and I'll tell you what, if there is not a fantasy football site that has an auction draft where you can launch it, then I should do that, because I think that would be a huge. I mean, that would be a huge. That's got to be. I'm just saying that.
That would make you a very rich man if you came up with that.
I don't know about very rich, but I think you could make money on it. So I'm going to check on that. I'm glad persistence is the key there, Paul. I'm all about it. Nobody loves fantasy football more than me. There's not many people that have played fantasy football longer than me. What are the advantages when you get old? 1993, when Emmitt Smith threatened to hold out for the Dallas Cowboys. He slid to number 8 in my first ever fantasy football draft, and I was able to get Emmitt, and I haven't missed a season since. So, all right. So thanks, Paul. Where are we at? Beth talking about the Greek Freak has something to prove. He's been accused of blowing it in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, he's been good for the past 3 games, but I think that's really it for Giannis in these playoffs, these past 3 games. I mean, he didn't score 40 last night, but coming off the back-to-back 40 games, Giannis looks good with a nice double-double last night. Other than that, he has not been a huge it factor in this year's playoffs. He's stepping up at the right time, though. At least from what I've been watching, he stepped up at the proper time.
Well, look, we already talked about Middleton jumping ahead of him, where he looked like he was the lead guy here. What do you want to say? The alpha, the star of the team, and Batman to Robin, all those certain things, all those different things. But you know what? In Game 3, he was awesome, and he was the best player on the floor, and he made the biggest play last night. So, but there's a point to that, Beth. Whatever happens here, we've already talked about this. If we go to a Game 7 and Chris Paul has the turnovers and doesn't, shoot particularly well, and the Suns end up losing, it's going to be like Chris Paul could just never get over that hump. You criticize him, and hey, maybe Booker isn't that ready to be that superstar if he doesn't have the 3-game stretch like you'd think. Somebody goes through in these 3 games and is dominant, lays it down, and is able to grab that ring and get the championship. then you just vault yourself way up of everything. You can't take those rings away from you. Can't take anything away from you. People try to do all that. But, you want to be a superstar. You want to be known as one of the greats. I mean, that's what you do. You go out, and we know that it's Giannis, Middleton, Chris Paul, Booker. I mean, those are the four guys. You would think that those would be the four guys that would decide it, need to play great. But, just like we saw last night, Connaughton hitting the big three. I mean, this guy and Holiday, which, not anybody that I would want to see shooting the ball if I was a Bucks fan. I mean, he's cringy, that way, actually doing anything, driving the lane. But he's played defense on Chris Paul, and you can say, hey, he's a big physical guy. Maybe he's wearing him down. So, hey, you know what? He ends up getting a ring and plays well in a Game 7. You're going to forget about, that 4-year, $134 million contract that's kicking in next year for him.
Yeah, before the game last night, I got out, played some nice twilight golf because it was a nice day and everything like that. And I got paired up with these two relatively older guys, and they were talking about betting on the Suns.
We're talking about 40 years old, relatively old?
46, relatively
46,
old.
okay.
46, relatively old. Relatively old for a 25-year-old. But they were talking about how they don't want to bet the Suns ever, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And they brought up DeAndre Ayton. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but they claim that there's lapses in DeAndre Ayton's game where he's just looks nonchalant, not trying that hard. And that's one of the big things I was looking for in the game last night. I only thought of one play, that weird rebound pass to Crowder where it went out of bounds. But other than that, is that something you noticed about Ayton or no?
Well, I think one thing, he's a young guy. I think the other part about him is that he reminds me a little bit of Middleton, and that's been the knock on Middleton. It's like, hey, show some fire, get out there, get in somebody's face.
Yeah.
Ayton's, you put him in the gentle giant category. There's been some times where he's yelling into the crowd, which, hey, that's what you want, but
that's what you need.
I think you're right about that. If you don't always have this ferocious, outward, and you're not getting it done, any little thing that people can hit you on, they're going to hit you. Look, Middleton, who was fantastic last night, was the reason that the Bucks ultimately, won the game. I mean, Giannis made the biggest play, but he was the one that carried him through these playoffs. So I know it was Colin Cowherd was like, look, you can just tell that, this guy is not made for the play, already knocking him. And so that's just the way it goes. But I see, he's a former number one overall.
Yep.
So you're going to give that to him. But there's been some times where you watch him and you're like, man, this guy looks like a young David Robinson as a right-hander. So, yeah, a little bit of that. But you know what? He doesn't have to be the superstar. He's got Paul and he's got Booker. And
Book looked good with the left hand. Looked good finishing with his left hand yesterday. It looked real good.
Booker's awesome. It really is. It's, the foul trouble. Foul trouble is the way it came down to there. That was really the turning point. Suns had a little bit of a cushion there. That foul, the third one, and then when he had that fifth one, he had to sit down. I mean, it's one of those things, man. If you're getting some fouls where guys going to the basket, or you're playing defense, you're shuffling your feet, 50-50 calls, whatever else, you get some of those. But the one where he went out and grabbed the guy, you're right. He ended up getting 7 fouls though last night. It's always good to see Raj, man. Raj, we're going to have to get you actually on the show video-wise. We've been talking about that, so that's going to happen one of these days.
Over 8 starts for Justin Fields. Absolutely.
And I think when we get Raj on, the segment is going to be over and unders for the NFL season. Raj likes over and unders. I like over and unders. Starts from Justin Fields 8.
Over. Absolutely. Over. Andy Dalton's going to start the first couple weeks, and they're going to realize it was a terrible mistake signing him to a 1-year, $10 million deal. It's that simple. Justin Fields is going to be sick.
Do they still have Slick Nick Foles too, don't they?
Oh, God, no way.
BD Foles, he's still on the team.
No way.
I'll go for, I think they'll end up trading him. I mean, that's too many quarterbacks to have on the squad. I'll go over for Fields too. When did the Lions play the Bears? What, week 3?
I think week 3. It's early October, then later in the season. They start in Soldier Field. Do you think he'll be playing for the Bears in week 3 against the Lions?
Yeah, if it is week 3, I forget if that's exactly what it is. So Raj looked at it. That's about the time. But look at what it took. I mean, Justin Herbert was awesome last year. And it took Tyrod Taylor to get like the doctor puncturing his lung to get him in there. And I don't know, what was that, game 4 or 5? I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, I like the over.
If Nick Foles makes the roster, he makes $4 million for the Bears this year.
Trade him.
Trade him, absolutely.
Trade him for a pick.
5th. Tomorrow starts the second half of the Detroit Tigers.
Let's just before we get to that, let's clean up the rest of it. No, that's okay. Yeah, where we got the Tigers coming up, right?
Transitions are my thing.
That's all right. Paul doesn't like the 16 team. Hey, I like shooting for the moon.
That's too many people.
That's not too many people.
It's way too many people. It's got to be 10 or 11 or 12 players or teams. Excuse me.
Well, the thing that I like about that, there's plenty of players out there. It's like, what's it matter? I think you could do 20 if you wanted to. It just makes that. It's just, I don't know. Like, I don't like arguing. I'll argue it with people. We wanted a 16 team. I've never been in there. I think we got a 14. Like, to me, the more the merrier. There's more money. There's more teams that are out there. The more difficult. Yeah, I mean, are you talking about sometimes you're looking at, your flex position as a guy that you don't know if it's going to give you anything. Who knows? Oh, who cares? Why don't you just play a 4-teamer and everybody just gets a stacked team?
Well, that would make it really fun. But I've never played in leagues more than 10 people, and like me and my friend group, we have 2 separate leagues with basically all the same people, just a couple different people in each league. We're combining the leagues. It's going to be a 12-team league, and none of us are looking forward to that.
It's fun.
It's a lot of people. It's a long draft. It's a lot of people.
Well, drafts are the best thing about it. And, I mean, the one part, like, if your team is not as stacked as you look at it, but that's the position for everybody else as well. So, I mean, it goes deeper if you have more knowledge about who's playing who and who gets in, then, that's what it comes down to for your bench anyways. I like that. I know what, the 14 team would be perfect for me. But you know what, if people are like you, then, I'll acquiesce. People just like can't handle it. Can't handle 16 teams.
Can't handle too many people.
Paul likes the old school.
No, absolutely not. I don't want to see that man in the Pistons uniform ever again.
Yeah, the question for those who hopefully are listening to the podcast, if the Pistons should consider bringing Reggie Jackson back. No, I don't think so either. Reggie's earned a multi-year deal, another team that's, thinking about the playoffs. I don't think the Pistons I think they're going to fight for the playoffs, but ultimately I don't think they're going to be one of the 8 teams. I think they're going to be fighting for the play-in spot there. And you know what? For me, Reggie Jackson, he did an all right job, but remember this, like the Pistons bought him out. Reggie Jackson was playing for $2 million this year. Like if the Pistons could get Reggie Jackson for $2 million, I would take Reggie Jackson, have him on the bench. And if he had some injuries and you're able to put him in there, but Reggie Jackson's going to be getting like, $10, $15 million for some team. And that's not what you want. Kind of like Andre Drummond, Andre Drummond was making way too much money. He needed to be like the 4th or 5th highest paid player on your team. And Drummond's an all right player. Reggie Jackson was, like the 10th, 11th, 12th highest paid player on the Clippers. Nice option if you can get him. But you know what? You go out there, some team signs Reggie Jackson, some 4-year deal, and he's one of the 2nd or 3rd highest paid players. Not going to work. Nope, maybe if Stan Van Gundy gets another GM job. Greek Freak's block was nice, but I'd say the best moment in Milwaukee Bucks history was the owner's daughter repping the team at the 2014 NBA draft lottery. Okay. She must have looked pretty good up there, huh? You would go back. The Bucks actually won a title with Kareem and Oscar Robertson back in the early 70s. So that's before my time. But I would think that actually going through and winning a championship, you would look to Kareem, some kind of moment, or Oscar in those series right there. But you know what? If they win it, I'll go with the Greek Freak. But you know what? Is that when they got Giannis in 14? I mean, they got him at 15, so now they got him like number 1 overall anyways. Have you guys heard how bad the injury is to Beef Stew? He hurt his ankle while on the selection team in the Olympics.
Beth,
no idea. I like how you use the nicknames. That's Stewart for the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
The Isaiah Stewart. I have not seen the latest thing on the Olympics here is that we've got 2 guys with COVID, and one of them is Jeremy Grant. The Pistons.
Him and Bradley Beal.
Right, and they're talking about trying to replace Beal, but not Grant. The COVID's everywhere right now, and coming back in, talking about it canceled a baseball game today, and we're going to talk about it with the Olympics coming up in the third chapter. And Paul's there he is, 12 to 14 max when it comes down to fantasy. All right, now we're ready to turn the page.
All right, Fithian, the Tigers start their second half of the season tomorrow. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of expectations for the teams. I'm only looking at a few things for the team to do well, and a lot of that's circle around the trade deadline. What are 3 things you're looking forward to in the second half for the Tigers?
Yeah, one of them is the trade deadline, but you know what? There's nothing that you're sitting over here thinking, wow, the Tigers are going to swing some trade and get some top 50 prospect or something. Maybe they can get something for Jonathan Scope, and I would be for trading Jonathan Scope. You know, Chapman trying to argue, and I know people on Twitter like, the Tigers, they really need to, fight for the AL Central or try to fight to get to 500. I mean, Jonathan Scope's a free agent after this year. If they're able to get something for him, I would trade him, and then I would play everybody that you could and everybody that you're hoping to see over at second base, Paredes and whoever else, Castro, if you want to put him over there, see what you can get at second base with the guys that you have. And so he's the one guy. So I'd keep an eye on that. That's one thing of interest to me.
Really quickly, regarding the 25-man roster, is there anyone on the 25-man roster right now that you think is untouchable? Anybody that you would say, nah, I'm going to hold back? No.
Yeah, I don't think that that I would trade Mize or Manning or Skubal, but I
know you're right about that. Excuse me.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody would be looking to like the amount that you'd have to give up to get those guys, and plus, they're on an innings restriction. So why would you even look? I mean, there's really very little chance that any of those guys that a team would be looking for them to try to win it, to put the finishing touches on there, and you'd be looking to have those guys for the long haul, and you'd have to pretty much be coming back and trading guys of equal value there and young arms, and that just makes very little sense unless somebody was really disenchanted and demanded, like if Mize came out, I want out of Detroit, that might be something, but I haven't seen anything like that.
I definitely misspoke there. I'm position player wise. I understand with the 3 young arms and all that, keeping them in the rotation, they're not going anywhere. But position player wise, I don't see everybody can go. Everyone can get traded. I don't have any problem. Nobody's untouchable.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to want anybody, but maybe Scope. But
That's
I don't think there's anybody else that
maybe Robbie Grossman. Maybe that's really all I can think of. Herman Scope and Robbie Grossman. That's really it.
Yeah, me too. Like, maybe if Haas over the next 2 weeks, like just hit the blazes out of the ball and somebody had an issue and needed a catcher or something, I don't see it. I think Scope's the only guy. So yeah, the trading deadline to me, the other thing is just 2 positions. And I'm not really interested. Would it be nice if the Tigers somehow ended up finishing 500? Yes, but I don't expect that to happen. Would it be nice if they ended up finishing 3rd, where technically they're at right now by percentage points over the Twins, even after getting swept going into the break? I mean, those are nice things to shoot for, but I'm still not. I don't really care about the record or where they finish in the Central. I'm looking at center field. They've got Baду there. Daz Cameron's played a little bit. Derek Hill. I'm expecting Derek Hill, the former number 1 overall pick, to get some time out there. I would like to see him play. Get a legitimate shot. Let him play a couple weeks out there and see what he can do. Same thing with Cameron. I would like an outfield. I know Grossman's out there, and he's coming back next year. But, yeah, Badu, and whether can Cameron or Hill do something in center field, let's see. They've got a whole second half after the All-Star game to play those guys. Put them out there. Let's experiment a little bit. Let's see that. It's the same thing at short. Like I hope that Chris Ilitch spends $250 million to $300 million and goes after Carlos Correa or one of the other top shortstops.
Don't forget Trevor Story.
Yeah, the Dodgers, they've got a shortstop out there as free agent as well. There's a couple of them out there, but Zach Short has been patrolling the position over there. The Willie Castro. I don't expect those guys to do enough, but could they do enough where you would even have thoughts of, hey, Tigers don't need to go out there and spend $300 million. Look at Zach Short. I don't think so either, but it is of interest. Center and short are of interest of me. That's what's interesting to me.
Well, yeah, I like how you brought up the outfield, because one big thing for me that I put on my show sheet was DFA Nomar Mazara as soon as you possibly can and open up an outfield spot for a player like Derek Hill or something like that. Just get somebody young and in the system into the outfield. I can't see Nomar Mazara and his 212 batting average with 45 punch outs in the lineup anymore. I can't see that player play for the Tigers anymore. So just opening up an outfield spot for somebody to come up and play, just get big league reps. That's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to in the second half of the season.
All right. And if you are tuning in and watching the show and you are on Facebook, you can leave a message. You don't have to, you're not just saddled to having to send a message in the first or second chapter. You can send them in the third and fourth as we talk. Tigers. Let me just see if it's working here. I'm talking and typing at the same time. It's working. Well, there we go. Paul is
he's away from the phone.
Is that what AFK means?
Away from controller, yeah.
Oh.
That's at least back in the day in high school, that's what we would do. That's what we would say if we weren't playing PlayStation at the time. We're AFK.
Wouldn't it be AFC? Hey, I don't know.
That's how I know AFK, man. Away from controller. That's the only way I've ever known it.
I like it. Paul's one of the guys, even though he's going through YouTube, he's the one that got us to get there on Twitch, and that's what you're monitoring there. All right, so let's move on. That takes us to the third chapter. You ready to go?
Let's do it, man.
All right, we're just 8 days away from the opening ceremonies in Tokyo. The 2021 should have been the 2020 Olympics, but here it is, the Olympics. Your interest level and what you're thinking about as the Olympics rapidly approach here, Jelinek.
See, I've never been a big Summer Olympics guy. I really prefer the winter. My interest level, especially with COVID and everything, is at like a 7, just because I'm curious to see how they're going to be doing it, what's going to be new. I know there's not going to be fans at the games or anything like that, or they can't make noise. Is that what it was? I think there's going to be fans there, but they can't like chant or scream and yell.
I didn't see that part. I saw that the fans are definitely going to be limited. Japan is
it's not doing too great right now.
Well, they don't want the Olympics there. You can't interact with the Japanese civilians that are there, like if you're going over there. So they have had the highest COVID outbreak in 6 months right now that's going on. So if you took where we were at 6 months ago, what everybody was talking about, how things can get. So yeah, I mean, that's as a backdrop, that's a huge part of it. And just going to the NBA and thinking about at one point, Mike Breen, who was calling the game there, was just like, man, the electricity in this building is just off the charts. The Milwaukee fans just are going nuts. They're ripping their shirts. And it was the same thing in Phoenix, and really all the way back to the first round when the Square Garden, everybody, and we hadn't seen fans, and I'm just watching like, wow, it's so cool.
That's half the reason why I watch the games, just to see the fans back.
Yeah, I wasn't watching, I watched just a little bit of the Canadians and Leafs in the first round, because you would tune into those games and it's just like, well, it didn't have near the excitement of watching something like, Carolina or watching Boston or something like that, or any of the games that were going on stateside. And the one thing I know about, the Olympics, especially when, does it matter if you're underwater, if people are cheering for you or not? It's nice when you're to hear, but when you're running when you're running the dashes, like you're in there for the 100 and the 200, man, and the electricity in the stadium, just like how, off the charts it is and what that can do. That's a part that you miss, that we can't do anything about. So, Yeah, that part sucks. Not having fans definitely affects it. And, you know, the other thing is, there's nothing we can do about this either, is that, the time change. Like,
I know.
so we're sitting here, it's 13 hours. So it's 9 a.m. right now in Tokyo. So I don't know. You're not going to be getting the live feeds, which sucks. When you get the live, so gambling's out, unless you just want to gamble just for the hell of it on your phone. Like, I would think that.
Well, will they be broadcasting live at whatever time in the morning, or no?
Maybe like on like CS, NBC or something like that.
Something
Maybe
like that.
Maybe
I watched the Open Championship this morning at 4 a.m. for a minute. So that's not really huge. It sucks, but it's not a huge problem. But
it sucks for me. Like, you tune in, and Tarico's now. It's always been Bob Costas there. You watch. It's something like you might want to watch with your family. Like, so they package up these stories, and if you're like some diehard sports fan, you're like, I don't care about the backstory or the heartstring stories, or I just want to see the competition. Whatever. That's the Olympics. Like, if you're like, I'm a football, basketball, hockey, baseball. I mean, those are my four sports. I know people like soccer, but I like golf, and I like a little tennis, especially with the majors like Wimbledon. But that's six things. That's an awful lot of stuff that's going to take up my time.
I know.
To watch sports. I'll watch a little bit of Olympics and check it out. I like. I was thinking before I looked at all. I'm like, so how many athletes or what events would I really say, boy, I really want to watch? I knew
specifically the Summer Olympics, right? Specifically summer.
No, summer or winter. But summer right now, I was just thinking, all right, what are the athletes? And I'd say, well, I don't think Phelps is swimming. I didn't know that for sure. I checked. He's not. I knew Katie Ledecky. She's this great swimmer, female swimmer.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. Speaking of swimming, Annie Laser went to my high school, Birmingham Grove. She's competing in the Olympics this year.
Well, see, that's cool. Like, if you have somebody that you have the local attraction, if somebody from my high school, I would check that out. I would, I would follow that for sure. But Ledecky, somebody that I know, and Simone Biles. I know the USA Olympic team, like basketball, but I don't know some of the golfers, the ones that didn't pull out or whatever. Like, I'll know them, but I don't know if I know anybody else. I don't need to know anybody else. I like watching some racing, some sprints, especially. I'll get into a little bit of that, but that's about it.
Yeah, the three biggest things I'm looking forward to are all Team USA related. Is watching Simone Biles still be a freak athlete. Like, she's just incredible to watch. Like, I think watching Olympic gymnastics, whether it's men's or women's, is insane.
Gymnastics is fun to watch.
Those people they're absolutely incredible. What's going to happen with, as we talked about before, Bradley Beal and Jeremy Grant and Team USA after they've lost to Nigeria and Australia. I mean, do you see them losing a game, though? Do you see Team USA losing the Olympics at all?
I think they're going to win the gold, but I could see them losing a game. I like the basketball, but every 4 years, I like watching some swimming. I like watching some sprints. Like, I'll take a little bit of some long distance in or whatever else. I don't know if I need to check out the skateboarding. That's new to the Olympics here. I'm not a big X Games guy, but my stepson he loves rock climbing, and he's like, rock climbing is going to be involved in the Olympics this year. Like,
rock climbing is an Olympic sport.
It's new this year.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, and then like I don't know, I just prefer the Winter Olympics though. I mean, everything's so much better. I think I love like the snowboarding half pipe. I love, for some reason, the biathlon. I think that's tight, and I love Olympic curling as well. Like I live for Olympic curling in the winter every 4 years. It's awesome. It's electric. Yeah,
I'm kind of the same way, I mean, but except that I would pick the summer over the winter if I had to, just because if they more swimming and more sprints, over what stuff that you're talking about. But yeah, a little, some luge and some bobsled, take a couple 5-6 minutes in, watch some of that.
I think Olympic golf needs to go to more of like a team format, like the Ryder Cup, that type of thing. Brian Chapman coming in. I would take the points on Team USA's opponent in every basketball game. #major wager.
So you're going to be able to bet the USA games. Is what so I didn't know that for sure.
Is there a possibility you're not able to bet them?
I didn't know. I was thinking that you probably could, but then like I thought about with the time change, them being 13 hours ahead. Like I'm not betting if I can't watch the game. I mean, like right now, that's just where I'm at. I know people are,
there's some big degenerates out there to do
that. There are people that, they're trying to make money off of it. And, I'm in I take the position that I gamble purely for fun. I don't think that I'm better than and I don't think any of those guys that are sitting there on TV or coming at you through any kind of like a show like this or on the radio. I don't think any of those guys, as much as they're telling you they like this, and they give you a reason. Sometimes you hear a reason like, hey, this and this, and okay, and I get liking some, like, man, I don't think the Washington football team is going to be able to stay within 7 points of the. The pay. I mean, there's games that jump out, and so I will bet them. And you can't watch every NFL game. So, but all that being said, I watch it because they're going to be a game like that I might not have interest in a Thursday. I might, throw a couple dollars on Virginia.
That's exactly
against Wake Forest, and next thing you know, I'm rooting for them like it's a Super Bowl. So
I totally agree.
That's the way I bet. That's why I do it.
Do you think Olympic golf should be a team event or still keep it as an individual event?
I would put it as a team event. Yeah. I like the Ryder Cup.
Love the Ryder Cup.
And I don't know. So they're playing soccer. There's so much that's going on over there. But the things that really it comes down to me again will be, I'll be at the mercy of the TV sometimes when I'm tuning in just to check out what they have. But I'll search out the basketball, and I might search out, the finals when it comes down to some swimming and some sprinting. Other than that, I'll just take it as it comes.
Hoops, gymnastics, and swimming. Those are the three biggest things for me, and golf, obviously.
All right. One more for Chapman. It's great to see him on YouTube watching this show and wherever he's at. I think he's in California. If Team USA can't beat Nigeria and Australia, and they're going to be 30 points in every game, just take the points and get wealthy. So he's betting against Team USA. Is that the way you're taking this now?
That's the way
I'm going to take the points on Team USA's opponent. That's what he's doing. He's betting against Team USA. So now this also comes back to, and this is something that I've been with Chapman on before. It's like my number one team that I would root for would be Michigan football or Michigan basketball. I have never bet against Michigan.
Really? Ever?
I've never bet against them, even friends. I've never done that. I would never want to do that. And I used to have a policy where I didn't do it for the Lions either, straight up betting. But then I kind of realized that once fantasy football and then daily fantasy, I would load up the other teams against the Lions. So that was kind of betting it. And so, and I get but I don't want to bet. I don't think the Lions are going to be good this year, but I don't want to bet against them. And I still want to, even though I think this year I want them to lose. I mean, page one of my book, I'm not going to bet against the teams that I like, even if I think the other team, has this, even if I think there's money to be made there, I'm just staying away. I'm staying away from, betting Detroit sports teams, the other side. And certainly my favorite teams like Michigan football and basketball. I'm not betting against them.
Yeah, you know what? I got to agree with you. When you started leading off saying I never bet against Michigan, I'm like, wow, what a great company man, stuff like that and all that. But that makes more sense. I don't think I've ever bet. I bet against the Lions just because it's the Lions. But other than that, I will never bet against the Tigers or the Wings or Stones like that.
Well,
feels immoral.
You know what? Even when the teams are tanking, like the Pistons this year, you're like, oh yeah, and I think I'd pick on the major wager a few times, maybe picked against them. But I don't want to put money. I didn't want to get into a situation where I'm actually rooting for them to lose. I mean, that's the whole thing. Tanking, it takes you to these places where you're if you're really rooting against your team to lose. For the last 5 years, I mean, I've rooted against them. And I do once the Lions they get to the point, and this year it's different because I think going in they're not going to be any good, and I think they're only going to win 4 or 5 games. And in years past, I didn't go in thinking, man, I hope they only win 2 or 3 games. I actually hoped that they were going to keep it entertaining and they were going to take it all the way to the final week and maybe make the playoffs. I was hoping that, hey, maybe this could be the year. I always had those kind of hopes. But when they finally got to the situation, whether it be week 9 or 10, and sometimes it's a lot earlier than that because they just, get, completely chopped their leg. Yeah. And then it's like, well, it's time to root against them, and it sucks. I mean, you're rooting against the Lions, Wings, Tigers, and Pistons for the last 5 years. I mean, once you get into that situation, 90% of the times I've rooted against my teams for the last 5 years. Well, what kind of fan? Yeah, it's tough to take.
Matt Patricia changed that for me. I was all in on Matt Patricia when he first got here, and then after like week 4, I was like, okay, like I'm done, and I rooted for the Lions to not win any more games the first season and win less than 4 every other year with Patricia. So yeah, I get that. Golf is a team sport in the Olympics. I agree with you guys. Yeah, Bart, you're absolutely right. It should be like a Ryder Cup format. You do like a tournament or something like that, or a bracket style format against all these random teams that are there. That'd be electric. It'd be great. Everyone playing 2v2, best ball, something like that. I think just golf should not be an individual sport right now in the Olympics.
Yeah, and I don't know why they don't do that. Like for some people that are not golf fans, like with the Ryder Cup, when you're starting like, what do you mean? I lost 2 out of 3. And it gets people like confused there. Stroke play you can understand because that's how everything's played, and it does I think confuse people. But you could make it. You could just explain it more. I don't know, but it is team part. Like I would be with that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like the last Olympics were 2016 in Rio, correct? It was Rio.
I don't. Last time I remember watching the Olympic golf, I was watching him play outside of Paris. I thought, but I don't even remember. So.
No, that was the Ryder Cup a couple years ago.
Oh, was that the Ryder Cup? Right.
Yeah, but yeah,
you're probably right. Rio.
Yeah, in the 2016 Olympics, Justin Rose won gold, Henrik Stenson won silver, and Matt Kuchar won bronze. I mean, that's sick that the UK, Sweden, and the US got Olympic medals for that, but it's like it's kind of just like a basic trophy for an individual. Like it doesn't seem that special. If it was like the US Olympic team this year is DeChambeau, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, and Colin Morikawa. It would be awesome if all 4 of those guys won gold and brought that back to the States, or the UK team won it for their country. Like that would just be so much better.
Well, what would be awesome is if Shambo and Koepka, came down to the final hole and one of them blew it, the other one pushed each other, or you'd have to see them actually win it and high five and shake each other's hands and hug. But I guess we're going to get that with the Ryder Cup because both of those guys will be involved. So are they going to have to put all this aside to actually get along, or we would have had?
Brooks they've been asked about that, and DeChambeau has said, like, if we're paired together, we're going to play, and Brooks has just said, we're not going to get paired together. Like, that's not going to happen. Like,
you don't have to worry about it.
Don't even worry about it. It's not going to happen. So, yeah.
That's always my line. Would be like, hey, would you this is like when you're going out with a girl, not when you're married now, but it's like, hey, whoever the most beautiful, Miss USA, would you go out with her over your stay? Like, look, what do you think I'm going to say? Yes, I'm going to.
Don't worry about it.
I don't have to worry about that. I'm not worried about
exactly
that. Miss USA's not going out with me. All right. GBM, one more here before we turn the page. He's asking if do we think the trampoline in the Olympics is going to grow by leaps and bounds? All right, a little fun there from Gustavo.
I don't even know.
Did you know that
trampoline? Is that just jumping on a trampoline? Like that's an Olympic sport?
I didn't know. But like some of the ones where they run around with they've got the stick with the ribbon behind and they're like running around, like that's an Olympic sport.
Isn't that part of gymnastics, or am I making that up?
No, I think it could be. And the bouncy floor for gymnastics, which is fun to watch. That's kind of that seems like to be a little bit of trampoline, but just a trampoline. I don't know. I'm not an expert with the Olympics. I watch some of that. That's, by the way, good thing to watch with your girlfriend.
Do you know what we are experts in? Talking about the Open Championship. What did you think about we're going to be going into Chapter 4 now. What did you think of the Open Championship? What do you watch today?
Well, I thought the weather was the biggest factor. Is what it seemed to be. You know, where they're playing over there by the English Channel in Sandwich, England. You know, the guys that went out early, like Oosthuizen and Spieth, they were able to score. You know, you'll be able to correct me, but there hasn't been like only one or two British Open winners or Open winners that have got in where they're like double digits under par. It's mostly, and maybe they were just talking about this particular course or links courses, but most often, like you have very
low score or very
single,
like high scores, if you will.
Right. Yeah, you're not going too far under par when you end up winning it. So to see Oosthuizen go out there and Spieth actually throw up the scores that they did was pretty impressive. But by the time they've got to noon, the wind picked up, and you know the winds are getting up to 20, 25 miles an hour. There's nothing you can do. I mean, it's almost getting to the point where your ball lands on the green and it starts oscillating around. They're getting close where you're throwing up your hands. Now, the guys that went out early go out late tomorrow, and so maybe that'll be an evening out factor, but you never know. Like the wind could keep blowing all the way to noon, and then when Spieth and Oosthuizen get out there tomorrow, they could get calm skies again. I can remember a few years ago, I don't remember which course it was. It could have been St. Andrews, where Tiger went out. You know, it's like I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning and watching it, and it's like a Caddyshack when the preacher's out there swinging in the.
I know, seriously,
The wind's blowing so much, and Tiger's out there. You're like, are you kidding? And you can't see anywhere they're hitting it.
It's raining. You're like, it's miserable. It's
like why are they even doing this? And it cost Tiger. I mean, he was in the situation, or in at least a striking distance, but he ended up losing like 6 to 8 shots, and it's just like, hey, that's the defense of the course, or that's the luck of the draw. I don't know. There's a part about that that you do have to get lucky, or when you can score, you need to go out there and be able to score. So that was the biggest thing, to me watching it. And then just how different it is where you can be over there and you're watching, golf in the United States, and, it's just plush green, and you could stick shots in there.
There's trees lining the fairways. Yeah.
You see that stuff. Like I saw Mickelson coming out there, who's he's chopping something out of the stuff that's like this long. It's like, man, this is some crazy stuff. And the guys that are missing, I was listening a little bit. I like listening on a radio. There's this I don't know if he's Scottish or English, but he always says Trey, and that's a little tiddler. I don't know what he's talking about. Hey, missed a tiddler, but there are a lot of tiddlers that were missed today. A lot of Justin Thomas had a shot. I mean, it could have been, just over a foot. He's lining up. I'm like, he could kick that one in. Boom! Ricochets it out of there. Happens all the time.
That's the beauty of links golf, though. I mean, you've seen it in other courses like St. Andrews, where guys are 60 yards off the green and putting the ball up onto the green like that. Just everything about links golf is so much fun to watch. And it's like going back to being in the morning, being in the afternoon. For all the weekend warriors out there, you want to, if you're playing golf, you want to play early in the morning. That's where the greens are softer. It's wetter. It's going to be a little slower. Then as the day progresses, it gets a lot more dry. The winds pick up. It's just really hard to play in the afternoon. You saw that with guys like Justin Thomas, Patrick Reed, Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood missed the fairway by a few yards, and he's in that tall brush or whatever you want to call it. And he could have a clear line. Yeah, the fescue, thank you. He can have that clear line of 100 yards to the pin, but he can't even make contact with the ball. You just saw him just punch it out of there 5 or 6 yards on the fairway. Like, links golf is just so incredible and so much different compared to playing in the U.S. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I played I didn't play at any nice courses when I was over in England, but I played at some courses. And the courses – so I was up like North Yorkshire, where the wind's always blowing, and and you've got that fescue that's as tall as you out there. But the courses, they're just so beat up. You would look at them, and these are actually nice courses, like the courses that are over here that people would laugh at and say, "Oh, that's a joke of a track." I mean, the grass, if you took that course and put it over in England and say, "Hey, man, this is the nicest possible condies and course that you could possibly have." Yeah, I mean to be able to have even the grass grow green over there is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to watch Spieth's round today, but I tried to find all the highlights I could on like YouTube and Golf Channel and all that. And like we talked about on Tuesday, you don't need the driver a ton on this course. Spieth hits his irons and wedges incredibly well, and he's finally remembered how to putt again. That's dangerous for all weekend. Look out for Spieth at the top of the leaderboard all weekend long, and hopefully Oosthuizen hangs on too. It'd be nice to see him actually win a major and not finish in second.
Yeah,
He is a major champion, though. I do want to say that.
Yeah, well, and Rose is both Rose and Fleetwood. They're both under par. I think they're both either 2 or 3 under, so that's nice. And either of those guys go out there, the native sons. I mean, people are going crazy for those guys. They're going crazy for Rory too.
Yeah,
I just like it. I like the big names. I don't mind seeing somebody pop up. If as long as they're going to pop up and stay relevant for a while. But I just like the big names. If you could tell me you're going to have Oosthuizen and Spieth and Fleetwood and Rose and McIlroy,
yeah.
Get them going. If that's the way it is, going to the back nine on Sunday, we're going to be in for a treat. That's all I'm hoping for.
And that's what fringe golf fans want too. If you have the biggest names on the leaderboard on Saturday and Sunday, you're going to be tuning in whether you like golf or not. Probably little Brian Chapman will watch a little bit on Sunday as well.
Let's not go too far.
He will. He absolutely will. But overall, the course looks beautiful. It's been fun to watch so far, and I'm really looking forward to the weekend and seeing how the afternoon guys do in the morning tomorrow.
Yeah, and look, unless you're in some kind of lineup thing where you picked Scheffler, who's 3 under, or Connors, who I didn't even know who that was, and Connors is 2 under. Like I'm a big Scheffler and Connors fan. And thanks for this, the Spieth, man. You told me Spieth. You put Spieth in my mind on Tuesday, and when it came down to putting my lineup in, I said, you know what, that little Ryan Jelinek was, and then I heard somebody else like Spieth, man, when it comes down to the links, he's the guy to go with, and I made the change, and look at him now. Feel pretty good about that.
Tell me what you think about this take. He's been terrible this year and parts of last year. I think Ricky Fowler is one of the most overrated athletes of all time. Can you get on that bandwagon or not?
Yeah, but he actually came around a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, but like
no majors. He's played in Ryder Cup teams. That's really about it. There's nothing super memorable about his career. He won the Players, and that's about it. And that's not.
Well, he's overrated. Is then like if you sit around and watch golf like you do, and like I do, like I mostly just watch the majors, but I watch the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and I'll watch some other tournaments. When I'm watching commercials, Ricky Fowler's in every one. He's way there. He's got his orange hat. He's out there telling the guy next door to move over. His Rocket Mortgage. He's their lead guy. When you're that prevalent in the commercials, you're thinking, hey, you know what? How many majors does this guy have? Well, 0. So he's got to do that. If you're gonna, and he's all right. I mean, a good looking dude. He looks like he'd be a great guy to go out and party with.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a good time to do that, but I'm looking for guys who are going to win majors, and
that's right.
I want to look at Justin Rose. I want to look at Brooks Koepka. Even though I hate DeChambeau, like I'm going to watch DeChambeau, and it's like how Chapman.
He was making excuses.
Oh God, I wanted to bring that up too. That is just absolutely absurd. He's a little toddler. I can't stand that guy.
I don't like guys that make excuses. His excuse was, his driver. He just doesn't have the right face or something out there. Yeah, but it wasn't like that. No, I wasn't hitting it right. Yeah. I mean, he's up there. He's got the Popeye swing and everything. Yeah. Like, hey, maybe you better back it off a little bit. But he was complaining about the equipment and I don't know the face of the driver or whatever else. Yeah, you got to make that adjustment, Bryson.
He's been with Cobra his whole career. Now he's just going to come out and say, yeah, the club face is bad. The club sucks. Like blah blah blah. That's horrible. If I was Cobra and Puma and all that, I would drop that dude immediately.
Blame the golf ball next.
Yeah, that's what us weekend warriors do. We slice the ball into the woods. I look at my driver. I'm like, yeah, it's totally the club. It's not my fault. So that's a low bad move by DeChambeau yet again. I hate that guy. I can't stand him.
I should over the last. I'll just say over the pandemic. I'll go get 50, 100. Actually, my wife, I tell her, pick up 50, 100 balls, like kind of range balls. Like you pick them up from Meyer or she was picking them up from Meyer. Then she came home with look like nicer golf balls, but I'm not talking about like in the sleeves that you would go out and play with. I'm just like looking for range balls because I lose a lot of them hitting them out there. But I don't clean my iron. They're 50-year-old ping wedges that I'm hitting with. They're pretty scratched up. I don't clean them up, and then I get out there. And the golf balls are dirt. They get mud all caked over. I'm not cleaning the golf balls out. And, if I have a nice lie, though, man, I'm just popping them out there, 75 yards. Beautiful. I just wonder if I had, like the latest pitching wedge, perfect pitching wedge. And I went out there and bought a sleeve of
like
the best Titleist out there. Yeah. And if I'm out there, if I'd just be like, woo, they'd just be, or if I'd still, every fourth or fifth one, shooting it into the woods.
My dad's in the same position as you, and he laughs at me when I buy a $40, $50 box of 12 golf balls. I'm like, it honestly makes a difference. Like, it's totally different compared to playing to some crappy range ball or the golf balls that I play. It's drastically different. I can actually tell my ball what to do, and it'll do it. So it's pretty insane. It's awesome.
You ever played Eagle Crest at Eastern? I
have not played any courses on Ipsy.
Yeah, if there's one course that I played the most, it's probably that one. But there's one hole where you have to carry. I mean, you're up pretty high, but you've got a swamp down below, and you have to hit it at least. I'd say 220, but I'll just say 200. I don't know what it is, but that's the swamp's in front of you. It's like nothing but swamp. I mean, there's nowhere to go, so you have to carry at least 200. And I don't do it. So I get up. I'm already. When I go up there and I'm pulling up, am I pulling up? Am I grabbing one of the Titleists? No, I'm digging around in there. I'm like, all right, this one's got like a range thing. I'm like, all right, this is the one I'm using. I mean, I'm already knowing that's not a good idea, But there's been a few times I'm like, all right, forget it. Titleist, brand new, crack it open, boom, right into the water. Like, I don't know why.
Famous last words. I can clear that every time. I can clear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that I'd like to go die. There's a million golf balls down there. Then they're all in the pro shop. They're selling them for $3. That's a huge scam.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
That's one of the best ones that golf courses use. Put a gigantic hazard that they know 50% of the people are going to hit into, and then scoop the balls out, then resell them. Man,
clean them, and yep, that's it.
That's a nice, man. That's a nice scam. Nice business if you can, partake in it. All right, let's see before we get to our major wager here. GBM, he likes DeChambeau. He says LMFAO on DeChambeau. I'm pretty sure he's on Nugenics.
With the big hurt. Yeah, that's exactly where he's at. I hate that guy.
I think he's probably on some other stuff too.
Oh, absolutely. Allegedly that they don't really care about drug use or steroid use on the tour. So...
Well, like you question, like he went from, what would you say? He went from 200, like 2 years ago, he was 200 pounds and he's probably 235 now.
I know. Yeah. He looks,
and he's not 235 with a gun. I mean, he's definitely like, you look at him, it's all muscle, 35 pounds of muscle.
He looks goofy as hell, man. There's definitely something more he was doing. Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Taking shots at him. All right, let's get to the major wager, and we both picked the Suns last game. I'll just say for myself, I thought that the Bucks were going to win, but I thought the Suns were going to cover those 4 points. So I thought it was going to come down to be a last-second shot, and that's why I would have taken the Suns and the points. And all game long, I thought, you know what, I've got this nailed. This looks like it's going to be one of these last-second shot deals, and that's where it looks like the Bucks could win it, but I still like the Suns. I still like the Suns in the 4 points till there was 2 minutes to go. Actually, to add the block by Giannis, I still liked what I was saying, but the final 90 seconds, you might have felt pretty good, but the Suns didn't stay within the 4. They ended up losing. What did they lose by 5 or 6?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
tough one. If you bet, it was a tough one if you had the Suns in 4.
Yeah, I also took the Suns money line. That didn't work out, and thankfully I took the American League in the All-Star game with the money line.
Oh,
that
yeah, you
paid
did.
out, so that felt good. That felt real good. But I am retiring from betting on the NBA for life. I'm terrible at it. So again, Phoenix Suns, I'm really sorry. Don't worry about me betting on your team ever again.
Yeah, well, it's a very similar situation as last night's game. The Bucks were favored by 4. Now the scene on Saturday night goes back to Phoenix, and the Suns are favored by 4.
Mhm.
So, am I thinking the same thing? This is going to be another nip and tuck game, and it's going to come down. No, I think the Suns are going to find themselves here, and I am going to pick the Suns, and I'm going to lay the 4 points, and that's the way I would go if I was going to bet that game. I don't think I'm going to, but if I was going to, that's the direction I would go. Suns lay the points.
If I were to bet, which I won't, and if I do, I need someone to smack me. But yeah, give me the Suns in the 4 and Jordan Spieth plus 450 to win outright.
Yeah, coming up next week, we'll talk about the expansion draft. Paul W. talking about what players they might lose. So we will get into that coming up. You know, who will be playing for the Seattle Kraken. I don't think you have to worry too much. A little spoiler for you, Paul, as I took a look at it. Bart getting in for the last time here before we go, saying that Lynx is a real challenge. Newer equipment does make a difference. Go Koepka. I'm with you, Brian. Stop whining. DeChambeau.
Yeah, just don't try to pound the ball. I understand he tried to do that at the U.S. Open, and it worked out for him a couple years ago. But just hit the ball in the fairway. Keep the driver in the bag. He's a great player still. He just doesn't need all the power for this course.
No, you know, honestly, it's cool to be able to drive the ball 365 yards.
It's awesome. I would love that, but he doesn't need it.
But there's still, when I'm watching 95% of the guys on any swing that they're taking, even the drive. Well, I don't know, maybe not the driver, but all the other swings, man, it still surprises me just out effortlessly. It's kind of like, bring it back, nice and smooth, and then the things just fly. Simplicity with the golf swing, you know, is still – it's striking it. It's not forcing it out of there and jamming it down the fairway. It's still that way. Any other tips?
Play in the morning. That's all I can say. Play golf in the morning. It's easier. There's less people. You're not waiting on holes.
I'll be watching some golf. Please do a Clubhouse audio cast too. All right. I'm going to leave that to Jelinek. Well, he's supposed to. You're the 25-year-old.
Clubhouse audio cat? What in the world is the Clubhouse audio cast?
I guess you got something to work at. Find that out.
I'll Google that right now, or for next week.
For people that want to see this on the podcast, I'm going to work on that. We know for sure that will be back on Tuesday. Thanks for participating. Thanks, everybody out there. And for Brian Jelinek, I'm Dennis Fithy in the Fifth Chapter. And we will talk with you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend and good night.
Good night, everybody.